Listen to me. I don't care where you've been. I don't care what you've done. I don't care how broken you feel right now. God ain't scared of your mess. You might think you've gone too far. You might think you're too damaged, too lost, too stained to ever be put back together. But let me tell you something. When God sees brokenness, he does not see defeat. He sees opportunity. He does not see failure. He sees potential. The world will look at someone who has been beaten down by life, who has stumbled through mistakes, who has carried burdens too heavy to bear, and they will say, they're finished. But God does not see the way man sees. God does not measure you by the number of times you fell, the number of wrong decisions you made, or the depth of the scars on your soul. He measures you by the willingness of your heart to let him work in you, by the faith you still hold when everything else seems lost, by the surrender you are willing to give so that he can rebuild what has been broken. Every crack in your life is an opportunity for him to pour his light in, to fill the empty spaces, and to create something stronger than what was there before. That is why broken people are often the most powerful vessels for God's glory, because when he works in brokenness, he does a work that cannot be replicated in perfection. Brokenness humbles us, and humility opens the door for God's power. Pride keeps people from being fixed because pride tells you you can handle it on your own. Pride tells you to hide your flaws, to cover your pain, to act like nothing is wrong. But God specializes in the ones who admit they cannot do it alone. When you come to him broken, when you acknowledge your need, when you say, Lord, I cannot fix this myself, that is when the miraculous begins. He does not need perfection. He needs permission. He does not need your strength. He needs your surrender. And the beauty of it is that surrender does not make you weak. It makes you strong in ways that the world cannot understand. When God starts to work on the broken, he does more than heal the surface. He transforms the spirit, restores the soul, and renews the mind. Your mistakes, your failures, your regrets, they are not the end of your story. They are the raw material God uses to craft something beautiful. The Bible is full of examples of people who were broken, people who had failed, people who were considered hopeless, but God saw them differently. Moses murdered a man and ran from his responsibility, yet God used him to deliver an entire nation. David committed adultery and murder, yet God called him a man after his own heart and used him to shape history. Peter denied Jesus 3 times, yet he became the rock upon which the church was built. These stories are not exceptions. They are illustrations of a principle. God can take broken vessels and fill them with purpose. God can take shattered lives and make them whole. God can take the pieces of your mess and turn them into a testimony that points everyone to him. Being broken is not a curse. It is an invitation. It is God saying, I can do what you cannot. I can build what you cannot rebuild. I can restore what you cannot restore. And the work he does is not just about putting the pieces back together. It is about making you stronger, wiser, more compassionate, more resilient, more aware of his power in ways that only those who have been broken can understand. Every tear you have shed, every moment you felt hopeless, every time you questioned your worth, those are the places God works to show his glory. He uses the broken to remind the world that nothing is impossible with him. The very thing you are ashamed of, the very thing you wish could be erased, the very wound you have tried to hide, God can transform that into the source of your greatest strength. When you submit to him, when you trust him, when you let him work in your life, you will see firsthand that nothing is too broken for his hands. You may feel worthless today, you may feel lost today, you may feel shattered today, but God sees the masterpiece in progress, and he is not finished with you yet. Your brokenness is not your end, it is the starting point of something great. God can take the pieces, even the ones you think are too far gone, and make them whole. He can take your pain and turn it into purpose. He can take your failure and turn it into a foundation. He can take your scars and turn them into a story that inspires generations. Every crack in your life is an invitation for God's power to shine through. Every wound is an opportunity for him to demonstrate his love. Every mistake is a chance for him to show that his grace is bigger than your sin. God can fix anybody, and that includes you. Your past does not define you. Your failures do not define you. Your shame does not define you. God does. He is able to redeem, to restore, to renew, and to rebuild. He can take what was broken and make it beautiful. He can take what was lost and make it found. He can take what was dead and make it alive. All you have to do is let him in. Let him work. Trust the process. Believe in his power. And watch as the God who specializes in brokenness takes the pieces of your life and turns them into a masterpiece that glorifies his name. When God steps into a life, he does not just patch it up. He transforms it from the inside out. You see, people often think that being fixed by God is about getting rid of the problems, about smoothing out the rough edges, about having everything in perfect order. But God doesn't just fix the outside, he rebuilds the inside, and that's where true change begins. The heart is the source of all things. It is the wellspring of your thoughts, your words, your actions. If the heart is broken, empty, or misaligned, everything else will follow. That's why God specializes in healing the deepest places, the areas no one else sees, the wounds that have been hidden for years, the scars that have shaped your fears, the pain that has dictated your choices. He goes straight to the heart because that is where the real restoration happens. And when he restores the heart, everything else falls into place. Brokenness often feels like a curse, but it is actually a canvas. God sees what man cannot see. He sees potential where you see failure. He sees beauty where you see ugliness. He sees purpose where you see pain. Every experience, every scar, every regret, every failure is like clay in his hands. He molds it, he shapes it, he refines it. And the beauty of God's restoration is that it is not a copy of someone else's life. He takes your unique story with all its messiness and turns it into something powerful, something that can inspire, something that can glorify him. That is why no life is too far gone. No person is too broken. No mistake is too big, because God's vision is bigger than your failure. Faith is required to allow God to fix you. You cannot remain in doubt and expect restoration. Restoration requires surrender. Restoration requires trust. Restoration requires believing that God is able to do what you cannot do for yourself. You may have tried to fix yourself, you may have tried to heal on your own, you may have tried to control the situation, and all of it may have failed. That is when you realize that human effort has its limits, but God's power has none. It is in that moment of surrender, when you admit, I cannot do this on my own, Lord. I need you, that his work begins. He doesn't shame you for your failures. He doesn't punish you for your mistakes. He does not discard you because of your weaknesses. He embraces you, he fills you, he renews you, and he begins to work miracles in ways that no one else can. One of the greatest signs of God's fixing is patience. He equips you with wisdom, resilience, and faith that you did not possess in your broken state. The very trials that once defeated you become the source of your authority, your confidence, and your courage. You are no longer the same person who walked through the pain. You are stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the calling that God has placed on your life. That is why your testimony has power, because it is backed by experience, by evidence, and by the undeniable proof that God can fix anybody. Healing and restoration are not optional for those who trust him. They are promised. The word assures us that God binds up the brokenhearted, that he heals the wounds of the oppressed, that he restores the soul. These are not just poetic expressions. They are realities for anyone willing to open their heart and allow him to work. Every tear you have shed, every moment you felt lost, every failure you thought was permanent is an opportunity for God's intervention. When you yield to his plan, when you release control, when you trust his timing, the impossible becomes possible, the hopeless becomes hopeful, and the broken becomes beautiful. God can fix anybody because his power is unlimited, his love is unconditional, and his wisdom is infinite. No life is too far gone, no heart too hard, and no past too dark. He can take the chaos and create order, take the shame and create honor, take the defeat and create victory. And this fixing is not just surface level. It transforms the essence of who you are, aligning your spirit, mind, and heart with his purpose. Every day that you allow him to work in you, you are being rebuilt, refined, and positioned to walk in the fullness of what he has promised. Your past is not your prison. Your failures are not your chains. Your mistakes are not your label. God's power is greater than all of that, and he is more than able to restore, redeem, and fix you completely. The key to experiencing this restoration is faith, patience, and surrender. You must believe that God is able, trust that his timing is perfect, and allow him to take control of your life. You must walk in obedience, even when it is difficult, and trust that every step is part of the process of being made whole. Your brokenness is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of a narrative of redemption, a testimony of His power, and a living proof that God can fix anybody, even you. The truth is, what man discards, what man counts out, what man deems unworthy, God counts in. God sees things differently than we do. Where man sees failure, God sees potential. Where man sees shame, God sees a canvas for His glory. Where man sees impossibility, God sees a purpose waiting to be fulfilled. And that is why the voice of man cannot determine your destiny. The opinions of people cannot dictate your worth. The judgments of society cannot define your future. God is not limited by human perception. He is not constrained by human understanding. What others write off as hopeless, God sees as the starting point for greatness. That is why no matter how many people have doubted you, no matter how many doors have closed, no matter how many voices have told you that you are finished, the truth is that God has already counted you in. When people count you out, it is often a sign that God is about to lift you up. When the world says you can't, that is when God says, "Oh, watch me." Your past failures, your mistakes, your setbacks, they are not your verdict. They are simply the preparation. God has a way of taking what looks like rejection, what feels like defeat, and turning it into an appointment with destiny. Joseph's own brothers counted him out. They sold him into